The world was crumbling. But for one brief moment, it was quiet. A deceptive calm swept across the battlefield. No attacks, no monsters, no movement from the sky returned to its natural hue. The winds were still. It felt leaders of the allied nations gathered again in their enormous tent city. A place where hundreds of thousands had once crowded together, shoulder to shoulder, had become a symbol of defiance against Nazareth. Now only a handful of figures remained, the leaders of the 6 human nations, along with Galdaboth and the high priestess of the slain theocracy, their faces drawn and haggard from weeks of battle. They had come together to make a stand against Ains, but now they weren't even sure that was still possible. Had Ains given up? Was this a trick? Was this a mistake? Or perhaps the worst one of all, was this just the eye of the storm? The silence stretched, punctuated only by the crackle of the campfire and the murmur of the river just beyond their camp. Finally, the high priestess of the slain theocracy spoke, her voice echoing with an unnerving calm. "This is the pause," she stated plainly, "before gods destroy cities." Her words hung in the air, carrying the weight of prophecy and doom. None dared to speak first. The uneasy truce had held long enough for Ains to unleash his full power, and the knowledge of what was to come lent a grim finality to the words unspoken. They had traded one horror for another, but there was no turning back. Whatever hope they had once harbored had withered under Ains's unyielding assault. They were trapped in a nightmare of their own making, a prison of their own fears. And when the sun rose the next morning, casting long shadows over the valley, they knew that their fate, like the world around them, hung precariously in the balance. Within the towering walls of Nazareth, far from the fear and uncertainty gripping the surface, Ains sat in silent meditation, his hollow sockets staring into the swirling vortex of his magic. He wasn't troubled by doubt or uncertainty. He was calculating, observing the unfolding events through his network of spies and informants. He had foreseen the chaos that was rising in the human nations. Assassinations, sabotage, the collapse of supply lines, false prophecies spreading like wildfire among the populace. It was as if the very fabric of their society was coming undone from within. Yes, these humans were tenacious, he mused, but also very stupid. So predictable. Let the silence plant seeds of paranoia, he whispered, his voice echoing eerily in the vast chamber. Fear does more than death ever could. Around him, Demiurge and Albedo watched silently from the shadows, their forms as still and unyielding as the tomb they inhabited. They waited patiently for their master's signal, knowing that their actions would soon be required. Ains finally stood, his skeletal fingers drumming softly on his staff, a signal in itself. The silence had done its work. The world outside was ripe for the final harvest. A cruel smile crept across his skull-like face. The time for subtlety was over. It was time to bring the hammer down. Raising his hand, he unleashed a pulse of magic that lanced toward the heavens. Blindingly bright, it split the clouds and bathed the surrounding lands in an eerie red light. All who looked up saw it, the denizens of Nazareth, the monsters in the field, the humans hiding in their fortresses, all trembled before it. Even the sun seemed to dim in its presence. It was a declaration, a warning, a promise of what was to come. Then, as abruptly as it had started, it ended, leaving the world plunged into an unnatural darkness. "Let Phase 3 begin," Ains announced, his voice resonating with power. Across the land, in every major capital, a single line of fire erupted. Each one burned the same message into the earth: you are warned. And as the flames spread, licking hungrily at the dry underbrush, the people cowered in their cities, knowing that the great tomb of Nazareth was not finished with them yet. This was only the beginning.